Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to another Offstreet webinar. It has clearly been a minute since our last webinar, so if I'm a little rusty, just kind of brush that off. You may have noticed that we took a bit of a month or two hiatus, and that's just because our Offstreet team, we had a lot of our squad out at the IPMI conference, but don't worry, we are back, we are in action, and we have a lot of good stuff for you today. So I want to know where everyone is tuning in from today. So please drop that down in the chat. I see a lot of people already doing so. So it's great to see. I see a lot of friendly faces. Give us a lovely hello down there. But if you don't know who the heck I am, my name is Kyle, and I am actually tuning in from sunny California today. I'm currently in my hotel room. So just it doesn't look how it usually does. But that's okay, because I just wanted to make sure I was still here to hang out with everyone on today's webinar. If you do have any questions that come up during the session today, please drop those in the chat or in the Q&A function, or sorry, in the Q&A section. We highly encourage it, and we really want to make sure you guys, get your burning questions out. You can have those conversations here on the webinar or in the chat itself. So anyways, I think everyone would love it if I moved on with it. So let's do just that. Today's topic is Offstreet for events on campus. And we know on Offstreet just how important it is, this topic, to parking teams on campus, because events can be so different, so nuanced, but also still bring a lot of those common challenges for parking teams. There's a lot at stake when it comes to all the different types of parkers at events on campus. There's those VIPs, the contractors, there's guests, you name it. There's lots of different parkers at play. So it's really important to ensure that your event parking is absolutely dialed in. And today we are even going to get a bit into the weeds here and do a full event setup for you guys, really just to show you how Offstreet isn't just another event software. So I'm super excited to introduce someone who is making his return to the big screen here, our very own VP of Product, Levi Hamilton. Levi is the brains behind some of the biggest improvements to Offstreet's events module this year. And if Offstreet had a superhero, it would definitely be him, just maybe without the cape. Although, Levi, I think you could probably pull off one of those spandex suits, with a cape. I'm sure you might even have one in your closet. But maybe we should have arranged that for the webinar. I don't know. Anyway, thank you so much, Levi, for being here today.
Oh, what an intro, Kyle. That's great. I actually do have one of those tights. Like those everyone knows, when you're like on a
Yeah,
road trip and you see the people on the highway and they're like cycling on the side. Yeah, like
yeah,
I'm one of those cyclers. I wear like the full leotard. I don't have a cape, but I could wear bright orange
perfect.
tights.
Maybe do you mind maybe going and getting that and putting it
No, we
on real
won't.
quick?
Let's not. No one wants to see that. But definitely not a superhero. I also have kids, and for
Okay.
anyone in the webinar that has kids, they ruin your confidence. They tell me all the time, "Dad, you're not funny," or like, "Dad, you're not cool." So no, I don't have confidence to be a superhero. But with a cape, I can maybe pull off the look.
I'm sure you could muster it up for sure. Now, before we get into the action here with Levi, our Offstreet Zoom Wizard is now going to throw up a poll on the screen here because I want to gauge where people are finding the most frustrations when it comes to events on campus. So you'll see that poll question pop up on your screen, which says, when it comes to events on campus, which ones tend to cause you the biggest headaches? So feel free to throw in some answers into that. And while you're doing so, Levi and myself will dive in here. Um, so, Levi, to kick things off, I kind of want to start big, a big, broad question. Can you kind of give me the rundown on events in Offstreet?
Yeah, like what's events in Offstreet?
Yes.
Definitely. I think when I think about it, I think it'd be helpful to just zoom out a little bit. And when I think of Offstreet, and I think when our customers tell us about Offstreet, one of the things that we're really known for is flexibility. So when you come into Offstreet and you're trying to create a rule, a permit type, a registration setting, whatever you may call it, um, there are a lot of configurations, right? You can set up a 2-hour parking window, a recurring parking window. You can have different ladders. So users register for 30 minutes or 15 minutes, there can be paid. not paid. I could go on and on. All of these settings and optionality, which is really great. And I think as Offstreet rolled out and we started to talk to, a lot of the people on this call, um, you kind of learned that events was a really common theme amongst universities and higher education. And what's unique about an event, there's typically a very fixed start time and end time. And a lot of the people creating these events at Parky Teams they're just doing the same things kind of over and over. And there's always this event host involved. So we essentially just trimmed out a lot of that optionality because you just don't need a lot of it for events. And it's just like a shortcut to create something with also just some bells and whistles on it. Thinking about the event host, thinking about the parking team, and what do you do before an event, after an event. So yeah, just a simpler version of all the flexibility that Offstreet has with some bells and whistles. And that's something we really talk about a lot as a product and a design team is, we want both flexibility and simplicity, but where possible, let's start simple and let users opt into flexibility or complexity if they want to. But
Mhm.
events is really simple, as I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's in its simplest form, it does exactly what you just said there. So, okay, let's first kind of, I guess, getting into the sort of live demo of it all. Let's start off by setting the scene, maybe a little live action role play here. Levi, I am going to pretend to be an athletics director at a university, and we're hosting a volleyball camp, and I'm going to send you an email. Okay, I'm hosting this volleyball camp, and we need parking for 150 people coming to this camp. I email you exactly that. Can you kind of tell me, okay, what's happening?
Yeah, for sure. So as I've learned in talking to a lot of party teams, there would probably be a lot of back and forth of us figuring out some additional things, but I'll make some assumptions as we kind of go. And yeah, why don't we just build one of these together in real time? And for those that I know there's people on this call that haven't used Offstreet. There's a lot. I can recognize a lot of names that have used it. So even for those that have used it and are familiar with events, there are some new things here that we're going to demonstrate. So yeah, stay tuned for that. So I'm sharing my screen here. Let me know if you can't see it, but
Looks all
okay,
good.
let's do this, Kyle. So you said it's a volleyball camp, right? So we're gonna.
Yep.
I'm just on the left here. I'm just in our event section, and I've clicked create new event. So event name volleyball camp. I'm gonna assume you're at the athletics department, um, and in your case, I'm going to change. 1 second. I'm actually going to change. Sorry, I'm going to do one quick thing here. I'm going to switch my companies to parking. I have two demos here. Apologies for that. So I'm just going to create my event again. We're going to go volleyball camp, and you're the athletics department. So Kyle, I've already added you before in this system. You're the contact for this event. So a contact is essentially someone who's requesting this event. And the reason we ask for this is all optional, but the reason you'd want to fill this in will become apparent when it comes to once this has been created. I got to get information back to Kyle. So in this case, I'm just pre-uploading, Kyle's information. And then if you have a billing code, I'll just put in a fake code here right now. A lot of the validations in Offstreet for events are free, and we want to kind of charge behind the scenes. So this just allows us to run reporting after, and you're good to go. So now we're going to build the thing. I like to call this the Lego blocks section. Again, I do a lot of Legos with my kids, so maybe that's why I think of it. Plus, Lego is just cool. But this is new. We actually just changed this UI a couple weeks ago, and we changed the UI for those that haven't seen it for two main reasons. One, it's simpler. It's actually less clicks, which is something we care a lot about. Some people, I recognize some names on this call, will create multiple events a day, and we want to be nice to your hands and your wrists. So it's less clicks, but also it's setting the scene for us to add more features for things in the future, some of which I'll talk about kind of as we go. So all we've done so far, right? We've created a volleyball camp. We said Kyle is the host. So let's add our times. And again, with events, there's typically a start and an end time. So I'll assume, Kyle, it's this, let's say it's tomorrow, Friday, the 11th. We'll say it starts at maybe 8 a.m. and it goes to 5 p.m. And now this is actually brand new, less than 24 hours old. It's just in our test environment. But for everyone on the call, this is going to be going live in the next week or two. It's what we've been calling multi-day events or multi-interval events. Um, Before, you used to be able to set things up. You could set up an event to happen over the course of a 3-day weekend, right? And when the park would actually park there, they'd be valid for that. Would that be 3 days, 72 hours? But now you can actually set up multiple intervals or multiple days, where I can now add an additional day. And in this case, let's say I want it to be Saturday, and I can even change different times. Maybe Saturday it's 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., which is really cool. So now I'm not valid overnight. I'm just valid during that specific time. And Parkers, when they register, when you see this, they'll actually be able to do it. And you can still, of course, add date ranges. So I could also add, on, let's say on Monday and Tuesday, I want a date range from 8 to 5. So I can still include that bucket. You can basically add any kind of combination you want in this. And then when I save it, you'll see on the left, you can see a clear indication of like when this Parker is valid and when they're not. And again, it'll be also be when I show you what the Parker sees, it'll be pretty clear on there. And so I know a lot of people have been asking for multi-day events, and yeah, we're excited to roll that out here and demo it today. So we've added our times. Let's add a location, Kyle. So in that request that you would have had to me, you probably would have said where the event was. And as a parking team, I'm going to say, okay, where do we have available? So I'm going to choose a lot. This is something for those that aren't familiar with it. We would set this up with you in advance of you onboarding into Offstreet. But we won't charge for this one, but if we want to charge a customer, we certainly could. And I think you said you wanted, was it 150 people
Yeah,
max would register for this event? And you wouldn't lie, right? There wouldn't be 30 people that actually show up. When you say 150, you're confident.
I'm very confident.
Okay. I know that's also a bane for some of our event hosts, or our parking teams that set up events. So we'll set that up. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the venue. So let's say that our venue, not where we're parking, we've already set that up, but where is the actual venue? You can set that up. I'll choose this Astel Event Center, which is close to where Kyle and I are. And what's cool about this is we care about getting the parker to the actual parking spot, but once they've parked there, let's get them to the event. Let's show them where to go, which is kind of that extra step that just reduces stress for our attendees.
Mhm.
And then lastly, there's an optional step here. You can add a bunch of information, like you can require a code, you can upload your branding. I won't demo all that. But we have these new fields that launched, I think it was a month or two ago, for instructions. And now what instructions are, depending on the event, you might want to tell the parker certain things at certain times. We used to have one spot for this where you could say whatever you wanted. And we found that a couple customers were saying, could I have more than 300 characters? And we said, well, we certainly could, but that's a lot. And we kind of found out what they were trying to do was add instructions before, instructions after, and then instructions when it was about to expire. So we added 3 new sections now. So you could add instructions before, this is a free permit. I'm not sure what the instruction would be before, confirmation after your license plate is your permit. No need to print anything, you could say. And when this expires, click this link to re-register. And you could link back to Offstreet if you wanted to have them kind of re-register. So really you can kind of control the narrative throughout that journey of the parker, which again helps just make sure that they have a smooth experience on their end. So I'm going to create this event. So it's been created. So I've done my job as the parking team, almost fully done my job for this event. I still got to get it back to you, Kyle, because you're the event host. And now what I normally would send to you, right, is you may want to print off this QR code and hang it somewhere, or you may just want to share this link. And I'll show you what this link looks like in a second. But you're the one that has to share it with your guests. But I may want to give you some instructions about what I just told you. And we have this new feature where you can basically craft an email that gets sent from Offstreet that includes all the information. So I'll demonstrate this. I'm going to load a template. I'm just going to load a default template that we have. Everyone has access to this. If you're an Offstreet customer today, you have access to this template. And here, what you see is it's loading, hi, host first name. This is a variable, so it'll always put whatever that host name was. In this case, it was Kyle. It'll have the event name. It'll have the date, the times. In this case, there's multiple dates, right? So it'll show those multiple dates, locations. So you only really need to write this once, and then you just load it,
Hmm.
and you're off to the races. You can click preview. You can see what this looks like. Like it's putting Kyle's name in, it's putting the locations, showing all that information. And then you just say, if the person replies to this email, where do I want it to go? Well, I want it to come to my inbox. So I'm going to send it to me. Subject line, your event is ready. And I'm going to send that to Kyle. Shared. Now my job is done. I didn't need to write instructions every time. I didn't need to copy and paste a bunch of things. It all happened in Offstreet. Yeah, and quite simple. And then what this looks like, just to close the loop, what this looks like for the Parker, if we demonstrate that. So this is what we call our portal. You can see most people are going to be mobile in this, and I know this is a web view, but it's responsive. You can see all those new multiple times. So you can see those different times that that person's actually valid at. Coming very soon here on our roadmap, the Parker will be able to actually choose. So in this case, right, I'm valid for all these times, but if you want them to have a choice, that's something that is on our short-term roadmaps coming out really soon here as well, where they can actually like choose a date before they proceed. I can see where I'm parking. Here's that 6 minute distance, a nice little thing. It's if there's multiple lots that they want to choose, they can measure the distance it takes them to walk there. So I'm just going to register a license plate. I'm going to put my email in. It's optional, but I'm going to put that in. You can make that required if you wish. And I park, and that's all I needed. And we kind of handle the rest. One more just extra thing I'll demonstrate real quick here. This also launched about a month ago. If you want your Parker to edit their license plate because, perhaps they fat fingered it and they, put an S instead of a five or something like that, they can actually change their license plate. So I could change this and say that's not an A, that's an eight, and update it in real time so that scenario where you get people reaching out to you say, hey, this person registered wrong, can you delete that one, can you change it to this? That can all be managed by the user right now. And they can even, if the permit hasn't started yet, like the event hasn't started, they can actually delete it if they want. They won't be able to once the event started because you don't want them deleting it during the event, but they can edit that kind of after the fact. So that's creating an event in Offstreet.
Awesome. Looks beautiful. Easy peasy. Looks like there is a lot in the chat going on. I see Melanie is answering some questions in there as well, which is great to see. Thank you, Mel, for doing that. And don't worry, guys. I see there's quite a bit in there. We will make sure to get to them all. Obviously, we will pull those from the chat into the Q&A function, but we are just going to continue on with this just for a little bit longer here. But we will get to those questions. Thank you so much for all of them. So Levi, it looks great. I just have one other thing. So if I were this athletics director or in the athletics department, okay, this event, my boss came to me and said, okay, actually, we need to make more money. How do we, charge for this now? I've decided, okay, I actually want to charge parkers for this parking. How can we go in and ensure that we do that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So really simple. I kind of breezed over it, but if I go back to this event, right, and I go back to my Lego blocks, as I call it, there is a pricing section, and you can edit this. So I'll just edit this, and I'll say, you want to charge the customer $5 for this, and we're going to make it paid. So it's actually going to charge them. And you can actually apply a setting to it as well because there's typically
Mhm.
fees. So I can add my taxman setting. You would pre-configure these in a different section of the product, which I won't demo, but it's just adding. Do you want to add a flat fee? Do you want to add a convenience fee? Do you want a GST? Whatever it might be. Click save, and then I'll save it there. And now if I go back to the portal, the only thing that's really different is I'll just re-register here. I register, click next, and what it's doing now is it's gonna before you get that permit, you're going to enter your credit card information. And for those that don't know, we actually can be the merchant of record. So if that's a blocker for you enabling payments with your vendors, we're happy to have that conversation, be your vendors. We're with Stripe. We are definitely in conversations with more payment facilitators. So if there's another one that you need in order to get this off the ground, yeah, just chat with the product team or the customer success team. We're happy to chat with you about that.
Awesome. I love to see it. What about um, branding? So if I wanted to make it really look like, okay, this is from my school, it's kind of a seamless experience for the Parker. so they kind of know that they're where they're parking
Yeah,
is
no,
through
for
that.
sure. Yeah, you want to like this is your Parker, right? They're coming to park at your university. That's your point. And it, right now it looks off street. So we actually have this new feature as well. Also, fairly new, only a couple weeks old. So I'll demonstrate that right now. You can actually control this yourselves. So in your company, you can click on this new branding tab, and here you're allowed to control some of the logos, the fave icon, the colors, and whatnot. So I can just demonstrate that really quick here. So I'll upload a logo. Let's do, I have prepared the University of Mars, which sounds like a really cool school. So you can see as I uploaded that, right, it's showing it on the right in real time. You can see what this is look like. It's so great just working with some really nice developers like Patrick that worked on this. It's every time I do it, I'm like, oh cool, that's nice. I don't have to like save it and then load it. It's showing it in real time. And then favicon or favicon. I like favicon. I don't know actually you're supposed to say it, but this is the thing you would see in the tab. So you can see your logo is going to be there in the tab. So anytime they go back to it, they'll see that. And you can also change your color scheme as well. So I'll select an orange-ish color. Uh, let's go with that. And then let's go green. We'll change that to, I'm not sure, red or something like that. And again, you can see on the right here, it's actually changing this in real time. So this portal looks much more colored. Yeah, another nice little thing I would say is if when this error pops up, we care a lot about compliance at Offstreet, and we want to make sure there's correct color contrast ratios. So I obviously just randomly chose one here, and it's not meeting the contrast guidelines. But yeah, you can upload this all yourself, and now it looks even more like your portal and less like Offstreet when you come in,
Mhm. Keep the experience whole, right?
for sure.
Exactly. Okay, well, that I think is what we got for demoing, I guess, the events kind of side of things through Offstreet. So maybe what we'll do now, because I see that there's lots of questions in the chat and in the Q&A function, maybe we'll dive right into those. You good with that, Levi?
Let's do it.
Okay. We will kick things off up here. Whitney Wedge is wondering, will you have to click share to email Parker's back? I believe that's referring to um, the instructions earlier on.
Will you have to click share to email the Parkers back? Maybe just a little bit more on that, Whitney. When I was demonstrating sharing the instructions with the host, so Kyle, the
Mhm.
volleyball camp after, um, that's going right to him, and then Kyle's going to be the one distributing to the Parkers. He's going to take that code and email it or text whatever he would do for his event. And then, but if Kyle had had a question, um, like he wasn't sure what I did as a parking team, if he replied to that email, it would come to my inbox there. Hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, it's more instructions for the event host, less for the parker, although we do have a feature on a roadmap that is catered to event hosts where it makes them an event host. Kyle running the volleyball camp, there's a feature where he can actually share with his guests a lot easier, just like you saw us demo.
Yeah. Okay, next one here. John Stewart is wondering, is there an email address limit to send?
Um, That's a great question, John. I've tested lots, and I haven't run into it yet. I can get back to it in a specific time, but certainly, 10 or more seems fine. But if there's a case where you want that to be, like 100 or something, I'd have to double check that. But yeah, I'd be curious to work. But we haven't run into the limit yet, or our beta customers. But if there is one, certainly something we could achieve.
Awesome. Whitney has another question here. If the Parker changes their plate, how does that affect reporting?
Yeah, great question. As long as they're changing the plate whenever you go to pull the report, it's at the moment you pull the report, it'll reflect the most recent plate. So for events, you're typically not going to see them change it. Well, I can't imagine a reason they would want to change it after. So typically, when you're pulling an event report, it'll have the most up to date. I'm not sure if there's been many use cases where people are pulling reports before, but yeah, it'll always kind of in real time be reflected in reporting.
Debbie Lawler is wondering, are the directions links from parking location and venue from the location the customer right now? For example, is the parking location a 6 minute walk from the customer's current location, or is it 6 minutes to walk to the venue after they park?
Yeah, great question. It'll be from the parking location. So yeah, I'm actually way more than 6 minutes from the Sastel Event Center where I am right now. But yeah, so it's from that, and really what we're trying to solve there is I'm trying to determine where I park and which lot I choose, and I want to go to one that's probably closer. Unless you're a stoic, you want to choose the one that's closest.
Okay, Nick Roberts. If the event is to be canceled, is there a way of sending a mass notification to all parkers that their registration is no longer valid?
Yeah, I love that question, Nick. We actually just recently were talking about that. The short answer is no, not today, but we do have plans to do that. Especially with events, that seems like that just happens. So we were thinking of building that for potentially two different roles, the parking team. So Levi, what I the role I was today, I should be able to
Mhm.
do that. But beyond that, even your event host, who really deals with the parkers more, if we have a platform where they can invite their guests, and send it right from Offstreet, they should be able to send mass communication in the event that a time has changed or the event has been canceled. So absolutely something we're talking about. It's a great question.
Lots of really good questions in here. Anne Brigandy is asking, is there a way to redeem someone's parking after the event? We keep getting people who forgot to register, got a ticket, and we have to make a new event with the budget info just to charge their plate. It is a big time suck.
Big
A
times
big
like,
time suck.
yeah,
Yeah.
I could see that. I'm not sure I have the best answer to that, honestly. I'd love to maybe just learn a little bit more about that, but I think that could suck. That's the first I've heard of it.
Mhm.
So either there is a way around about to it. Maybe talk to Mel, and Mel, if you have a different answer, feel free to put it in the chat. But yeah, I'd love to learn more if that is a common thing. That does sound painful. I'd love to solve that.
Okay, Lisa Copeland. Can the branding colors apply to the dashboard?
Yeah, to the dashboard. I know we can change the logo and whatnot for the dashboard. I'm less certain on the colors. I know that
Mhm.
was something that was discussed, but the way that this branding was designed is it's meant to apply to more than just the portal. So I don't know if it's self-serve, but we can definitely have different branding in the dashboard. That just may be something we have to manually set up. So it's a great question, but obviously something we're looking to address, and I think we look to solve it the same way. If you wanted to, update the portal, but also the dashboard, I think we would do that with a similar mechanism.
Right. And she also tagged on here, or is one also wondering if the branding will be constant for each tenant, or does the branding have to be set up for each tenant independently?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and again, something we've chatted about. Right now, it's just every portal, so it's not specific to a tenant. It'll be specific to the portal. So yeah, we definitely plan to make that more flexible. But if you want that portal to be more um, in line with, yeah, the university or the operator, it'll just be all consistent for that portal. But again, we can look to
Mhm.
add more flexibility there in the future.
Right. Pablo Rangel, are you able to edit parking permit prices by time of day?
Yeah, so I thought this may have came up earlier too. Someone else
I
might have
think,
asked
yeah.
it. Yeah. So when you think about, if we just zoom out and think about events right now, what I showed you, the first thing you see is, you can add now, in the demo environment, right? You can set up multiple date and multiple intervals. Um, what's going to come after that is what we're calling Parker choice, where the Parker can choose different days. Like, I just want Saturday, or I want Saturday and Monday, but not Sunday. So let's introduce some Parker choice, both for the date and time, but then also kind of the location. Um, and then what's happening after that is more of the pricing conversation, where if you want to have a different price for Saturday and a different price for Sunday, um, and perhaps, well, different location certainly is something, right? If you want to be closer and it's more premium, so that pricing optionality is on our roadmap. That's something we're trying to tackle in Q3 here. So in the next 2.5 months now, I guess it would be. But
Mhm.
absolutely big priority for us. It's not just about multi days. It's about any combination of day, location, pricing that you can think of, you should be able to do in the builder. Yeah, it's a great question.
Leslie Kistner is wondering, do we have documentation on the new features, branding, and payments?
We absolutely do. Yeah, Leslie, we'll get it to you. Yeah, you bet.
And Sylvia, if what is wondering if one event requires a group to park in different locations, is there an easy way to link the locations without using multiple links?
So if one event requires a group to park in different locations without using multiple links, um, yeah, I think what you're kind of saying is like if there was like this, how I'm interpreting that, if there was like this home screen on the portal where you came into the portal and you identified your group first, like I'm a student or I'm a staff or I'm this type of person for convocation, then I click on that and then I see different things. Like then I would see different days and different times. That's absolutely something on a roadmap as well. Um, that one's not Q3, but we want that all of that flexibility there. And then once all that flexibility is there, you do have different people that come at different times. So yeah, we're definitely in discussions for that.
Thanks for the question, Sylvia. Kathleen is wondering, can you see what the plate was prior if they do change their plate, especially if there is a multi-day event and change the plate on the second day or the
Yeah,
fourth
that's
day?
a good one, Kathy. Yeah, I don't think there is right now, is the short answer. But if that's something that you'd be concerned about, and yeah, it seems logical to me. We can definitely add some. I think how you tackle that is maybe some form of audit trail or just an extra column in the report that says previous plates, right? So you can see if they've changed it
Mhm.
a bunch of different, 10 different times on 10 different days. I could totally see that, and perhaps could be becoming more common with this new functionality of multiple dates. So yeah, that's a really good suggestion.
Yeah. I see we're going a little bit over time here, but obviously there's a lot of questions here, so feel free to stick around. We're going to continue answering them. Um, Thomas is wondering for multi-day events, is there a way for guests to select which days they park for without having their plate recorded through the entire date range?
Uh, for multi-day events, is there a way for guests to select which days they park without having their plate recorded through the entire date range? I guess, Thomas, I'd love to just maybe unpack that a little bit, and I'm not sure I understand the rationale. If I'm a parker and I'm parking for multiple different dates and times, I guess maybe what you're teasing there is if I'm going to be driving a different vehicle at a different time and I want two different permits, um,
Mhm.
maybe that's what it is. But as of right now, it would be a one license plate tied to every one of those days, and essentially create that permit at the end. If you did want to have a second license plate or a different license plate for part of that, then I think you're into the editing or you're into the purchasing a different permit for a different time series, which comes with that
Mhm.
additional flexibility we're adding later. So yeah, if you had more, I'm happy to answer more, but perhaps that's what you're thinking about.
Mhm. Thomas, that was just that one. Whitney says we have that same issue on campus with folks not registering, then getting a ticket, and then department host wants to pay for the permit retroactively to waive the
Mm,
ticket. So it's a better experience for the guest, and we need to add the permit to the event to an address bill.
yeah, no, I love that. Thanks
Thanks.
for that context. We'll definitely chat on that as a product team. Yeah, sounds like a pain
Mhm.
point.
Thanks, Whitney. Bob Dowell says, can we set it up without being able to register in advance? Would like to use this for athletics travel and reduce the possibility of abuse. Ooh.
So you want to set up an event and then have a rule where you cannot set up. You cannot register in advance. I think what's really cool about that, Bob, is and I could go on a lot about this, is we're kind of redesigning this events module like we talked about. But as I said earlier on, the events model is just like a layer on top of our much larger permit interface, which is also kind of getting this UX UI overhaul. Um, that's a long way of saying all of that flexibility that exists for permit types, and there is a rule where you cannot register until the time that exists for uh, permit types today. So when the things are merged together, the events and permit types, that will exist also for events. So Absolutely. When that comes, we're hoping to have everything kind of sorted and merged by the end of Q3. It's a bit of a stretch goal, but certainly by the end of the year, all that flexibility we hope that should exist there. And again, that's back to us. Like we want to start simple, right? Create the event simple. But if you want to opt into this additional rule, like you should be able to grab that. So I think it's 100% aligned with how we're trying to take it. It's a really
Mhm.
good suggestion.
Moving on, Leslie says, is the ability to change the plate available online only or a kiosk as well, or only events?
Yeah, it's a good question, Leslie. I'm not sure. I'd have to double check the kiosk to be honest. But right now it's events. But as part of what I just mentioned, us moving permit types and events into the same thing, essentially, everything's going to be on that same portal. There's kind of two portals right now, one for events and one for what we're calling registration settings, but it's all going to what you'd see in events. So that change plate is 100% coming to everything else that you do. It's just a matter of time. And again, certainly by the end of the quarter, we hope to be in that spot. Maybe sooner, depending on how complex of a permit type you want to set up.
Mm. Okay, Pablo, with another question here. Can parking directions be changed in real time? Meaning, if a lot fills, can we edit the new lot while on the field via a phone or something?
That's interesting. I've never encountered that. That's a really good question. I'm not sure if Mel's in the chat. Maybe she could answer that. But yeah, what would happen if you just edited the location? I'd like to think it would just work. We could certainly test that. But if you're logging into the dashboard and you're saying, okay, it's lot Z, now it's lot B also, or remove that, presumably the next user that goes to the portal will see the same thing. I have to validate that, and Mel might be able to comment on that. But yeah.
Awesome, great question, Pablo. Brianna is wondering, can we turn off the parker's ability to change delete plate?
Yeah, I was actually wondering, Brianna, when might ask for that. So Satyam on our team, I don't know if he's on the webinar, but I leaned over in our office yesterday and I said, "Hey, you know what I think people are going to ask for? The ability to turn that off." That was literally yesterday, so that's interesting that you're asking for that. So, uh, not right now, no, but yeah, as of our conversation yesterday and this evidence you're bringing to us that it sounds like something we want to do. I can 100% see that's something in the portal when you're setting it up. It's just a configuration. Perhaps it's on by default that you can change off. But yeah, we can look to change that up.
I think that's it for questions, but don't worry, everyone. If there is a question that maybe we missed somewhere or you think of it later on, don't be afraid to shoot us an email or anything like that afterwards, and we'll make sure we get back to you. I see that there are teams in the chat also answering questions and ensuring that we'll get back to people as well. So thank you to those in there. And I guess that's kind of all the time we have for today. I know we kind of went over time a little bit here, but everyone had a lot of awesome questions. So thank you for that. To wrap things up, I'd like to just get one more answer from you guys. We have a quick poll will show up on the screen here. Hopefully, our Zoom wizard in the background will throw that up. So we want to know, what type of upcoming event are you most likely to use a solution like Offstreet for? So you'll see a few options pop up under the poll. There's commencement, orientations, maybe it's an athletics event, department hosted guest visits, or anything else. Feel free to drop that in the chat um, or answer it right there in the poll. That would be awesome. While you guys are doing that, I guess I'll just kind of wrap it up here. So another huge shout out to Levi for joining us today. Thank you again. If anyone would like to learn more about using Offsheet for events on campus, feel free to scan to download the takeaway document that we'll throw up on the screen here very shortly. That we created this for today's webinar, and it's got a really good overview of kind of the events module and um, how we really kind of do it there. So if you have any additional questions about Offstreet or events, or you just want to talk to me about the weather, feel free to shoot me an email. Our screen should be popping up soon here. It will have that QR code as well as my contact information. Or I'm sure Levi, you can stalk him on LinkedIn, or you can even search him on our website. He would be happy to answer any questions or concerns that you would have. But
And
that's
yeah,
everything we
just
have.
sorry to interrupt you, Kyle, but just it was for me. Thank you all. we don't get everything 100% right, but one thing we try and get right is making sure we're building it for you that actually use the product. So legit, your feedback is something that we take back. We're going to talk about it all day. Um, we're building this for you, but really with you more than that. So really appreciate it.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And again, there's that QR code on the screen. My email information is up on the screen as well. And Levi, we can search him up as well. Happy to connect you with anyone that you'd like to talk to on the team. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. And thanks again, Levi, for being here as well. Have a great rest of your day.